Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq. Joining me is Mashinksy, CEO of Celsius Network, to discuss the year that proved to be an inflection point for Bitcoin and digital assets. Alex, it's great to see you as always. Welcome back to Trade Talks.
Thanks for having me, and Happy New Year.
Thank you. And the last time we met in studio, February 26th, for a panel with the CEOs of Digital Assets Data and LGO Group, the title of our discussion was 2020 will be a breakout year for Bitcoin. In fact, the group thought that Bitcoin would get to 30,000 by the end of the year. Of course, at the time, it was 8,778. And here we are. What happened this year for the stars to align?
Well, first, I think the main thing is that we had the halvening event, which means that the supply got cut by half, the supply of new coins being minted. And we had a huge amount of demand coming in from new corporates and new institutions. I think Michael Saylor is a great ambassador for Bitcoin. Him coming in big and kind of committing his entire treasury to Bitcoin forced a lot of people to rethink what they're doing with their dollars. And you don't need too much of less supply, more demand to move the price of Bitcoin. So I think momentum, a lot of people then shifted from being bearish to being bullish. And here we are at all-time new highs.
Do you expect the momentum to continue? Because with this institutional adoption that we're seeing coming on board, they're typically going to hold Bitcoin versus trading in and out of it in a more speculative way.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of drivers that kind of dictate where the prices are going to go. I think we are going through this process of handing off the baton from the speculators to the institutions. And that handoff is really what's causing the price to go up, because we thought that there's going to be a lot of sellers. We thought that the speculators are going to be basically dumping their Bitcoin as we hit that 20,000. That we're going to hit a lot of resistance, but we didn't see any of it. So really, the big question is what's going to happen? Is it going to be a 25,000, a 30,000, a 35,000? Where are we going to hit that resistance of more sellers than buyers? And because of that, it's very difficult to kind of even predict where prices are going to be next year. It could be 100,000 or it could be 30,000.
Besides Bitcoin, what else are you looking at?
So Ethereum is doing very well. I think obviously with all the DeFi stuff going on, Celsius runs on the Ethereum network, and there's a lot of activity, a lot of financial innovation in the space. So if you think of Bitcoin as like the killer app for store of value, Ethereum is effectively the killer app for yield, right? And Celsius was one of the first in the world to offer yield for Ethereum, for Bitcoin, now we offer 45 different assets. And yield, because you can get it from your bank, you can get it from your central bank, is something that really is moving all that money from the centralized finance to decentralized finance. And so it's not that Bitcoin is so good, it's that your bank is so bad. That's really what's driving this.
What's happening with Ripple and the SEC?
So look, when Ripple did their ICO and they raised a tremendous amount of money, they basically forgot to file with the SEC, right? Celsius, as an example, filed a Reg D with the SEC when we did our ICO. So it's just a form. It's like 3 pages, right? And it costs $10,000. But when you don't do that, and the SEC deems you as a security, you have this tremendous amount of pain that you have to go through to fix the past. And I think the SEC decided to set an example of Ripple. Unfortunately, again, we're not happy about that. No one is happy about that. But the SEC, I think, picked them out of all the different kind of large ICOs and decided to prove the case that this is a security, right? So it's going to have to go to court. The judge is going to have to decide, or jury is going to have to decide on what really happened, and does the SEC have jurisdiction over Ripple? That's really the key decision. That it may go all the way to the Supreme Court. I mean, who knows? Right.
But that's kind of always been the issue. It's the technology and the adoption of it is just so much quicker than the regulators have either considered putting these measures in place or just haven't been able to keep up with all of it.
Exactly. And today, up until basically 2015, all the innovation was allowed to happen inside banks and financial institutions, right? You couldn't do it in a decentralized way. And with Bitcoin and Ethereum, suddenly there is this Cambrian explosion of innovation, of financial innovation that we didn't have before. And the question is, should we allow that? Should we allow experimentation, allow some free willing here, and keep the lead, having the United States keep the lead in this kind of innovation, or should we squash all of that and apply rules from 1930 to what we're trying to do here, which is reinvent finance, right? So obviously in 1995, I was part of when the internet was born. I created Voice over IP, and the phone companies wanted to completely squash that, right? They said, hey, you're not allowed to run voice over this internet network. You can only run it on a TDM network, which we own, right? And the FCC and basically Congress issued a law that said, no, we are not going to tax the internet. We're not going to restrict the internet. And no one has ever given these phone companies a monopoly. Right? They didn't have a monopoly over voice. Banks don't have a monopoly over money or payments or anything like that. And everybody has to understand that all of us vote with our wallet every day. We vote for decentralization, for innovation, or we vote for the old ways of doing things every time we use a credit card or we use a bank. So we have to choose. Are we going for freedom? Are we going for innovation? Or are we going to stick with the past? The future is here, but to enjoy the future, you have to leave the past behind. And that's what we seem to not be wanting to do.
Alex, great to catch up with you as always. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks, and thanks for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.